everybody. Welcome again to Tea with Avril, and it is wonderful to have these two young men next to me. One I know for longer than the other. One I only met today, but I've spoken to him on the phone for a long time. This is Matthew, and this is Roy, and they are from, those of you who have been onto my website, Healing Rose, will know the name Escentia. Because the essential oils and the raw materials that I use in my workshops come from them. Why I use them is because I've used them for, I think it's 20 years now.
Pretty much, at
Pretty
least
much
20 years.
20 years.
Yes.
And I've never, the mistakes that I've made were my own mistakes, not from Escentia.
Thank you very much.
Because I have made some mistakes, and then I phoned Roy and he goes, "Why did you do that?" You know. And so why I've got them here is so that I want to give you an assurance of finding quality oils so you know that's my heart. Homemakers struggle. They struggle with budget, and they struggle with quality, and they want to keep their families healthy and strong and their homes clean, but they can't pay what some products that you would find on the shelves would cost. So for us, and I think Matthew and Roy feel the same, we want to give you a quality product. We are in business. We want to make some money too, because as you all know, I've got to buy a lot of shoes. I've got a lot of daughters. So we have to, feed our family and buy shoes. But we also want to give you peace of mind at a good price out there. And there's a lot of discussion around quality of oil. So I thought, who better to bring here than the man I know that knows possibly the most about oils and sourcing them and finding them. These two men. Actually, I just really wanted to meet Matthew.
Avril's been she's been a hoot on the phone, I'll be honest, yeah.
Well, there you go. At least I'm friendly.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I've got a few questions I want to pose about the market around oils, and then quality of oils, and then understanding what is on the shelf. So what must stand on the bottle for what we want to work with?
Indeed.
Are you to the right men that I'm going to talk to today?
Most certainly.
Okay, so our cups are charged. I'm not going to force him to drink something weird like I did with my sisters. And so, let's start the discussion. So my biggest challenge around oils and that is trying to explain to people that first of all, not to use too much oil. You don't have to kill a blend with essential oils. And second of all, you have to be, it's about the quality of an oil. And there's these questions around companies and different companies selling different kinds of qualities of oils and things like that.
Yeah.
So how do I see the quality of oil? Well, how do I understand what the quality of the oil is that I'm using? Is that too broad a question, or can you answer that?
No, I'm going to hand that to Matt in a sec, because he's at the rock face a lot more than I am, although I'm still the technical director. What I wanted to just start off by saying is that starting Escentia products was initially a challenge. I've always called it paddling upstream, because in that day there were in fact few suppliers in the market in South Africa at that point in time, and they were also supplying essential oils at what I would call a premium, and that's putting it lightly. And I discovered
remember that actually.
Yes, I discovered firstly that I had a very good nose, and I had a friend who ushered me into this aspect of perfumery, if you like, even.
Yes.
Because the world of perfumes and the world of essential oils and aromatherapy are very closely linked, especially on the psychological side. And what I discovered at this particular company, they were creating their own fragrance compounds. I discovered, to shorten the story, that good essential oils weren't necessarily that costly or expensive.
Really?
Yes, and it's very strange. It's almost like 20 years later, this whole thing is repeating itself.
Oh, really?
It's repeating itself in Southern Africa.
Because I feel like I'm fighting a battle and I'm not sure what I'm fighting.
Yes, it's
Okay.
the thing has changed. There's more aggression involved now, and it's really just a question of doing exactly what you're doing now, which I think is wonderful, which is disseminating information,
Yeah.
disseminating what we, Matthew and I, would believe is the truth,
Yes.
and putting the truth out there,
Yes.
and
I'm
letting
not
people
frightened
decide
of the
for
truth,
themselves.
yes.
No, for sure. I think it's very important. That's something that I spoke to my dad about many years ago when I really started getting involved in the company, was this idea of transparency.
Yes.
Because at one stage, there were very few people, even suppliers,
Yes.
principals, who we used to obtain products from, who knew what they were doing. So Roy would speak to them, particularly about certain products, and actually educate them on what they were selling from what we had found out.
Okay.
So what we would then do is go out, change our labels based on that information, because we had discovered something.
Yes.
Yeah, so for us it's been transparency, and I continuously push my dad for that. And
Okay.
I believe in that hugely, because if you want something, I'm going to give you what you want as best as I can. And if I can't, I'm going to tell you.
Yes, yes.
There's certain things we can't do,
Yes.
and then we'll be frank about that. But a lot of the time we will offer multiple grades for those who
Yeah.
want something along this line, or those who want something along this line.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about, so I struggle with, because I don't know everything. I am an aromatherapist, have been for 20 years, but I'm not a chemist, and I don't know,
Nor do I, but we're learning all the time.
yeah, and I don't always have access, or I don't always find, or I don't always have the patience to go and look for all the information, sorry. Truth.
There's lots of
Talk
books
about
out there, hey?
transparency.
That's what we're here for, though.
So,
we're here for
so take rose oil, for example, which is one of my favorite oils.
Mm.
I just, rose, that's my healing rose. Alice is
Yeah,
rose.
you named your...
Yes, it's my favorite thing. So rose oil is fine. So now I'm teaching homemakers. One of my big peeves is beauty products out there that I can't afford to buy a good product or the best product or that. I just can't. And I know, I speak to moms and daughters, and I know that I'm not the only one.
Absolutely.
So for me it's about how do I help a woman get the best quality product in her bathroom so that she can put it on her skin and have a similar reaction. And so, I mean, a simple blend of peach kernel oil and pure rose and neroli or frankincense or whatever the is the best you can get, because it doesn't have any preservatives and all kinds of crazy perfumes. The perfume is the thing that's actually working on your skin, and it's like I always call rose the nature's Prozac, because it's really good. So then I start using rose, and then I get rose essential oil from Escentia, and then you're calling it something else, or you've got it's called a standard oil or a synthesized oil or that kind of thing. So in my mind, this means this or that means that. So you actually sent me a document the other day, and it kind of cleared it all up. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
I've been awesome, actually. But can you clear that up? So if there's always this struggle between natural and organic. Now this buzzword organic, I want to scratch it out, because I know that sometimes organic means certain standards are set, but we think so many standards are being, and actually only so many standards are being
This is a
upheld.
hugely debatable subject.
Is
How
it?
many cups of tea are we going to have, Avril?
I have some extra hot water.
Yeah, it's a
So
very,
if you
very
can give
interesting
me
one.
sort of an understanding of, if I want to make a wonderful face oil, I want to teach the ladies they must buy their own rose oil. Is it okay to buy for your face standard rose oil? Or do we sell them a lesser quantity of that? Or why not? Then you can say to me, but why don't you let them use lavender or frankincense? You know, because it's cheaper and it does the same thing.
Mm. One doesn't want to open a Pandora's box here,
No.
but at the same time, it's worthwhile making a statement, and that would be as follows. The term organic has probably been taken very far in the world by mainly the essential oil people. So if you have something planted in the ground, it's a very, very good thing to consume that having been organically produced.
Mm.
But when you get to the world of essential oils, it becomes very grey indeed.
Oh, really?
Yes, because the chain, if you consider that 85% odd of the world's essential oils are produced by steam distillation.
Yes.
So there's the leaf matter,
Yeah.
the leaves, twigs and stems and buds are subjected to temperatures of up to 96, 97 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Which is another reason why oils can take quite a lot of higher temperatures,
Yes.
short higher temperatures without damage.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Not the citrus oils, because citrus oils are the true cold pressed oils.
Yes.
And that's what makes them more volatile. The molecules of citrus oils are a lot smaller, they evaporate faster, and that's one of the reasons why they have these uplifting properties, in fact. Back to organic. The distillation process, it is questionable as to what comes across the steam barrier when you steam distill lavender or rosemary or tea tree, if it's not organically grown. Because the chances are that a lot of the molecules that are coming across are only essential oil and steam.
Even if they've sprayed the
Yes.
plant.
Yes. So
Wow.
So you know, the thing that I wanted to lay on Matthew here was to just brief you on this going away from organic now, the idea of transparency,
Yes.
which has been an ongoing exercise, and Matthew took up the cudgels with this, and that is that we offer, for example, different grades of rose. You alluded to this rose, nature identical rose, doesn't have the therapeutic properties on a percentage basis, for example, that your Rose Absolute or Rose Otto might have.
Okay.
I see the therapeutic effect of the healing effect of essential oils on a continuum of 0 to 100.
Yes.
So if it's
pretty
100,
much me too. Yes.
yeah, if it's 100% synthetic, then its healing properties will be fairly low.
Yes.
And one of the fascinating things that we've come across is that this is a fascinating fact. Pure essential oils of rose, and if you step down one from there, lavender, have the highest vibrational frequency on Earth,
What?
measured in hertz, and it's scientifically done.
What?
Yes. So there's nothing on this planet that vibrates at a higher level. So when you take a
The
drop,
rose and lavender.
yes, and when you
Special things these days.
that's why you've attracted yourself to that. You take a drop of lavender, you put it on your hand,
Yeah.
and your aura expands
Yeah.
out of your hand. They've taken photographs of that. So and this is part of the effect. This is part of the effect on the system, on the mind, of using essential oils. And whether you use conventional oils or organic oils, to me, makes very little difference. And I'm sticking my neck out here.
No, well, I know you. So, you used to say to me, I get my lemon, I don't know if you still do, but you used to say, but I get my lemon here from the Ceres Valley because it's such good lemon. And I'm like, that's brilliant, because now I'm not paying it to fly
bring
in
it
from
in.
somewhere, and I think that's brilliant. And then you said your favorite, I mean, this is years, I remember stuff. I'm like a
Wow.
freaking elephant.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And you once said to me that your favorite geranium comes from the Reunion Islands.
It used to.
Okay, but that was many years ago. I remember this.
Yes,
And
geranium.
I love
geranium,
rose
bourbon,
geranium
yeah.
because, but it grows quite prolifically in South Africa, so I don't know where you get it now. But what I'm saying is, so if you can source it close to home, surely that is number one, cheaper and better, because you also then have an idea of where it's coming from.
It
and,
goes deeper than that.
okay.
It's like getting your foods, for example, that are seasonal,
Yeah.
and how much better that might be for you, seasonally grown in your area.
Yeah.
If you have oils that have been produced in the southern hemisphere,
Yeah.
it's like the water that goes down the plug. The energy is slightly different. And
Yes, because of where it's planted. Your
Yeah.
soil everywhere is different.
soil, altitude, these affect the actual what the plants are doing. So the plants, that's what's fantastic about essential oil.
Yeah.
They are basically God's chemistry.
Yes.
It's
Thank
God's
you.
chemistry.
This is
love it.
magic. This is very,
It's
very special
absolutely
thing to
magic.
say.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we have an ongoing relationship as Escentia Products with a minimum of 15 different farmers in South Africa. So one of the things that from the start I wanted to do, because I discovered all of the oils were coming in from France.
Yeah, but they come from a place they used to. I don't know if they still
From
do, but
Grasse.
Grasse, the place in France. But if everything's coming and you've got this excellent rose and they put it in a vat with some not such great rose, and you've got a mixture of excellent and not such great. Am I right?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. What I wanted to get to here was that one, we support the local industry,
Right. I like
and
that.
that there's a lot of people that feed off that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share something else fascinating with you, is that geranium, in fact, it's pelargonium.
Yeah. Yeah, the graveolens, pelargonium.
Yeah.
I tell everybody to plant that in their garden.
The only place on Earth
Yeah.
where all the pelargonium species are found is in the Table Mountain biome.
Really?
Yes. It was taken.
We have to go.
It's a beautiful thing.
We have a plan.
It was-
Are you coming with us?
Tell me when.
In the area, in the area known as Silver Mine,
Yes.
there are various species of pelargonium,
Yes.
and some clever Frenchman at one point in time
Mm.
squeezed the leaves hundreds of years ago,
Yeah.
sent the plant to Kew Gardens. It was hybridized and then transported across to Reunion Island, where they started
Yeah.
making the finest rose geranium in the world,
Yeah.
geranium bourbon. And the beautiful part of the story is it has come back to South Africa, and one of the very few successful industries,
Yeah.
essential oil industries in this country, is the production of this rose geranium, pure 100%
divine.
Southern African rose geranium.
I love it.
It's magnificent. It's magnificent.
So good for everything because it really works well on the thyroid. So what people don't understand is that the chemistry of these plant essences work with our own chemistry, because that I believe that's how God planned it. Why would He put you in a garden that doesn't work with you?
Why are all these beautiful beings growing here? Why
Yeah.
do they create these magnificent smells and
Yeah.
all these substances, these chemicals that
Yeah.
heal us?
And who first figured it out? As you said, somebody rubbed it at that. And I do believe, so that's just the other part of who I am, is this voice of God. I think He's been speaking for years. We just don't know always who we're hearing. So this whole question, Matthew, around because your dad says you're the guy to talk to. I
We'll
hear
see,
it.
hey?
Around the quality, because you're in so you're a wholesaler in the industry I'm in, and you've been buying oils and that. Quality wise, this discussion around quality and that, and trying to put the best quality in somebody's hand. Roy has told us a little bit around what happens in the industry and that. Right here in South Africa, in this industry or in this market, there's a challenge. I find there's a challenge around people going, but that's not good quality, and they're actually looking at a price tag. One of my big peeves is when you try and make homemakers or people that's trying to save money, you make them feel guilty because they're not buying the most expensive. They're buying gold instead of platinum.
I'd like to interject quickly.
Yes,
I'd
you're
like
welcome.
I'd like to make a statement, and that is one of the things I
You've got to
learned.
love him.
Yeah, he's gonna take over you.
One of the things I learned
I like you.
in my long walk in selling,
Yes.
which is basically it's to do with psychology.
Yeah.
I have a degree in psychology,
Okay.
but with selling, I learned one very important maxim, and that is as follows: whatever you're selling, whatever product you are selling, if I'm selling my product, you never ever denigrate the competition's product.
Yes.
You never run other people's products down.
Right.
And I want to make a firm statement in that regard, because
No, it's important.
because
If
there's
people point fingers and go, you're not.
anybody who's trying to denigrate your product
Yeah.
has a problem.
Yeah. So for people to, I've got people that are watching this and are going to go on my YouTube channel and watch this and that kind of thing. Quality. How do we know as a housewife, a homemaker. I don't want to always just say housewife, because homemakers take up very different forms in these days. How do you know what quality you're taking? What is it that you think they should know?
It's very, very interesting because it always boils down to definitions for me, and you may define something differently from me.
Yes.
And the term essential oil commercially has been thrown around as a big thing.
Yes.
But in actual fact, when we really start looking at it, it's only a very small section of these plant extracts that we're speaking about.
Yes.
So for the layman, we would call a broad
Yeah.
variety of these plant extracts essential oils. So when you are shopping, you're going to have to pay particular attention to your labels, of course, because there you're looking at an 11 ml bottle on the shelf. There's very little information for you to go on. So if you've done your research, obviously you know what you want firstly, because you're not just buying these things for shall we say for fun. You know why you want to burn it in your burner or why you would like to put it in your bath. Then if you have got to that point, then you would hopefully understand what the label on the bottle is telling you.
Okay.
If the bottle is labeled correctly by that supplier. This is where we've tried to differentiate things, because
No, you're very specific. You've actually got quite a lot of information.
We throw this around all the time, and quite frankly, this was supposed to be a discussion we were going to have in the car on the way here, not knowing this is what we were going to talk about.
We're talking about it, okay?
Because we're going through a special process in the company at the moment where we're going to try and educate, go through a process of getting documentation out there and available for people through a hub on our own website.
I'll put it on the website, and
you
put
are
it on
welcome
your
to all of
website,
that.
and
So that lexicon that I sent through to you on the different oil, essential oil, standard oil, nature identical synthesis, things like this, the label would generally state that.
Yes.
And you could go to the English Oxford Dictionary and really look up the definition, and that would give you a good indication of what you're looking at. But to know your supplier, something my dad taught me very long. If you know your supplier, you will know what their classification system is, and I can explain to you what our classification system is. So when we say what a pure essential oil is, that's basically normally steam distillation, plant to bottle.
Okay.
So you're looking at the highest concentrate you can get. It's been produced, a farmer has grown it. You could then break that down into two separate categories, your conventional oils and your organics, as you were speaking about, which we offer organics because people want organic oils.
Yeah.
So we give them that. They have that choice.
But that sometimes comes with a bit of a premium, and the way I know how, say now, for instance, German chamomile, and also know that plants that grow wild, because that's its natural, it's almost like a plant choosing to grow there. And I remember in the south of France, they have these beautiful, huge, lands of lavender, fields. Thank you. Can't think. Fields of lavender, but you can see it's a farm, and it's beautiful. It's purple. It's lovely. And then you walk down. So we were in Marseille, and we stopped, and then you got to walk down. It's like these big white boulders, the limestone, and then next to it grows the lavender, and you do this along, and it's like you almost see it in the air. It's like you're almost like nice and high after
Here it is on your table.
Yeah, and it's similar to this lavender, but you just have to do this. And I thought to myself, I want to go to those fields, and actually I got an opportunity. And it didn't smell bad or whatever, but this smelled better because it's almost like a chose there. And I know that the frankincense collected more in the places that. Well, I've read this. It might be me being a romantic, but when it's collected out in the sort of by the collectors, not grown specifically.
Funnily enough, they've never done it.
Really?
They've never farmed the Boswellia carteri bush.
Really?
Or any of the Boswellia species for some reason, and
that's frankincense, by the way. Yes, okay, carry on.
Yes. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I like you doing that.
This is defining correctly.
Yes,
now.
I know. That's what I do too, and people look at me funny. So.
Yeah, and it has to do with Latin names as well.
Yes.
And that's frankincense and myrrh, not only being biblical, are 2 of those really, really amazing products produced from gum resin. So
Yes.
what we would call them.
So that's actually not an essential oil, but we call it,
It
an
is.
essential
No,
oil. It is.
it's a pathogenic production of oil.
Okay.
Okay, which means that the tree
Yeah.
must weep,
Yes.
and when the tree weeps, it's healing itself.
Yes.
And the gum that the tree weeps, we extract from the gum
Yeah.
the healing powers that tree is using
Yeah.
to heal itself.
Awesome.
So nice.
Magic.
This is the reason.
I just love essential oils. I get so lost. I've got a tiny little blending room in my salon, and it's just it's where
I think it's wonderful that you're romantic about it too. I think it's
I just love it.
That's the whole point. That's got to do with the heart, with love.
Exactly.
And that's a part of it as well. And the idea that you can combine what you've done, things like rose and lavender.
Yeah.
Lavender is unique. Just as an aside,
Yes.
Lavender is synergistic with any other oil on earth.
I know.
So in other
I
words,
just love it.
with lavender, 1 + 1 = 3.
Yes.
So if you add lavender to rose, it enhances the properties of the rose as well.
And people don't get that because it's not
No, but it's
logical.
Yeah.
The whole way essential oils works is very illogical,
It's just there's a synergy,
which makes me happy because
Yeah.
I'm like possibly
You've
the
gotta
most
use something
illogical.
else.
That's
Gotta
why we
use your
say.
gut or
Yeah,
use your
well that's it.
connection
It's a thing.
Yeah.
You know stuff, and that's why when I started studying essential oils, they would tell me things. I'm thinking, but I actually knew that.
Ah,
You know, I actually there's a part of me that knew that,
Yes.
and I always thought it was linked to the memory banks and that kind of thing, because that's also how essential oils work with lifting the spirits and things like that. But it's also, I think, there's this ancient stemming right from the beginning, this ancient understanding of your environment and that's why you feel so good when you go into nature, because you kind of feel like you belong, and it's true.
yes.
It's not untrue. Okay, so if you had to, so you were talking about educating people. Who were you trying to educate? Is it anybody and everybody, or
well,
your
ultimately,
suppliers?
obviously, that would be the goal. But I think the end user is probably the least educated of all.
Yeah.
Let's just say we would be the wholesaler, so we're not always dealing with the end user directly. But it is important for us to somehow reach them.
Yeah.
We have limited platforms that we can do that, but we're expanding on it at the moment. So when they see our label, what does it mean when they're reading that? Okay, we now know what an essential oil is. We know what
That's
a nature
awesome.
identical oil is,
That's awesome.
or how it's defined. And anyone like yourself as well. I mean, as you were saying, rose specifically, you love rose, and that can be such a confusing oil to
Yes,
talk
it
about,
is.
because you get your Otto and your Absolute, and these
Yeah.
are extracted differently, in fact. So technically, is the Absolute an essential oil? And it's fascinating. I was blessed to go to Grass and actually see
don't
them.
say that. I
to
want
see
to
the-
go there.
To see them extracting from these petals, and I'm getting goosebumps now. It's
Oh,
just
I love
quite
the
a
idea.
magical
Yeah.
experience, that infused me with a lot more passion.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, and sitting with the nose.
Yes.
What did you call them?
Le nez.
The lunette. Sitting
I
with
like
them
it.
just on a two-day workshop there, understanding how
really?
perfumery works. And my dad, once again, listening to his lectures over the years, perfume means through the smoke.
Yes.
This is
Parfum.
an essential oil. It is the smell, and it is how people connected in the past
Yes.
to what they would call another divine place,
divine,
God,
exactly,
whatever that may be.
yes,
So
yeah.
this is what we're actually dealing with. It's beautiful.
It is so nice. I deal, so that one is the whole sort of health and wellness sort of industry that I'm in, but then I also, being Christian and being a preacher, and that I deal with that, and the frustrations that go along with that is it's quite a purist sort of, then I phoned you and I said, what, I think it was Galbaman or something, that whole, the balsam or for the temple in Exodus. And I said, what is this? Because now if I've read, and it ended up actually it must be benzone or benzoin, I don't know how you say it.
Both.
Benzone,
Both is good.
potato. I always said benzoin, and then somebody said snot, and I'm like, oh no, I'm confused. It's not difficult to confuse a blonde. So benzoin, it's and I said, oh, I don't know what this is, Matthew, and they're arguing with me, and you said it's actually. And then you spoke to Roy, and Roy said the other thing that it could have been was from a mollusk in the Red Sea, which they wouldn't have used, and you can't find it anyway. And this woman wanted this specific oil, and really, just in my heart, I felt that the reason why God said to them, you use it, and it must be blended as by a perfumer. You know, it says that in the Bible, in Exodus 31.
Okay.
They had to blend and so there's a fragrant, in the temple, in the tabernacle, there was a fragrant offering before you go into the temple, and then there was an anointing, a sort of physical oil, which you mixed with olive oil and things like that. And he said you would mix it as this. And I just thought logically that as they moved out of Egypt, because these were poor people that worked in Egypt, I mean, it's logical. The Egyptians gave them all their gold and their silver and said, go, now go. They must have given them perfume, because that was an expensive, important thing. They must have given them frankincense and myrrh and all these other things.
Well, if you'll allow me, the fascination for me was the following discovery, and that was that when Moses, or Tutmosis if you like, exited Egypt and got into the Sinai, it's pretty much the first time they put up a tabernacle.
Yes.
Now the reason they put up a tabernacle sounds logical, was to house the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
The Ark of the Covenant is a special and venerated object in the Old Testament.
Yes.
It also disappears from it quite amazingly, but that's
I think it's been hidden
that's
away.
for a glass of wine.
I'm a good
How many books have you read?
conspiracy theorist.
Okay. You're going to be here forever then.
I'm going to get to the oils, which is fascinating.
Yes.
So what you have is you have an object that's not only venerated, but a very, very powerful object.
Yeah.
Only certain houses, Jewish houses, were allowed to touch it or carry it.
Okay, so
If not-
tribes, yes.
Tribes, thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Right. So what would happen is, within the tabernacle is the Holy of Holies.
Yes.
And within the Holy of Holies is the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
The reason, today still, that priests anoint themselves, I believe, and that Moses anointed himself, was for protection
Yes.
against the power of that particular object.
Yes. Because they didn't know what
No.
they knew it was powerful, but they didn't always understand the kind of power
It probably had something to do with the tablets as well that were in it.
Yes.
That Moses spent, I think, at least 2 occasions.
Yes.
The first occasion he came down all burnt to a cinder.
Yes.
And the second occasion he came down, he'd obviously got it right, whatever they were. And it is
Gotta love God.
It is thought that these had something to do with it. In fact, one theory, I'm out on a limb now,
Yeah.
but
It's
whatever.
a theory. There's lots of
One
theories
theory-
around the Bible.
One theory
There
is
are.
that the Ark of the Covenant is a giant capacitor. And if you got near it and you
You
didn't
gotta
know what
love
you were
him.
and if you got close enough, it would discharge.
Okay.
It's biblical. You can read that. That's what
Well,
killed.
they used to put bells on the priest's garment,
Okay.
and when he went into the Holy of Holies to do his thing, it's a legend. So there's nobody that says that priest died like that, but they would put bells on it,
Yes.
and other priests would stand outside. And the Holy of Holies was small enough that if they stopped hearing the bells, God had struck this guy and they would pull him out by his
wow.
legs.
There we go.
Well, they used to carry the ark into battle, didn't they? It
Yes.
was that powerful. Hey?
Yeah. And whether it's that powerful, I mean, we discount the spiritual world as maybe it's there, maybe it's not. So you can believe in it, you don't have to, it's fine. But, these things are powerful.
Mhm.
And if we believe in a powerful being our God, our primary, why would he not be powerful? Why would that be impossible? And that's what I struggle with, people wanting just that and that, because in my anointing oils, I put different oils in, because I link an idea and a reason. So my most current one I did for the student council, we're doing a whole big thing for them tonight. And it has vanilla in, because of the journey of the vanilla plant, that it is picked out of a beautiful flower, and then it is fermented, and then it is dried, and it's like that's your learning period, and your drying period is like your desert period.
Wow.
And then it becomes like I just think God just loves this because He illustrates Himself through things that we can touch, and smell and be, but it's a spiritual truth. So it's something real, and so yeah. My answer always is, if God put it on the world, surely I can put it in His oil. I get into a lot of trouble, but
sure.
I thrive on trouble.
But if the only constant is change, then surely things have changed, and you are too changing things, and you've got this palette of magnificent things you could use.
Yes, and my passion is to help women, homemakers, do exactly that. Is to so let's talk a little bit about the power. You've touched here and there the power of essential oils. So what I understand about the history of the use of these essences, these plant essences, is that it actually, so the first time I started was 20 years ago, and people would say, oh no, that's very ungodly, unbiblical. That was kind of the New Age revolution that happened sort of after the when I was studying. And so Beverly, you remember Beverly from, where did I study? Madge Wallace, okay?
Yes.
She actually called me in, and I'd done beauty therapy and done all the things that I was like, okay, I can do that. She said, I can see you doing this. You'll really love it, Avril. You'll really love it. And I'm like, okay. But, I was now trying to figure myself out, and eventually I actually went. I actually said to God, you tell me I have to do this. And it's strange, another story. I ended up doing it. And this ended up being my favorite thing. I mean, this is just, I love this. Because there was this part of me that just understood the healing power of this. And people struggle to kind of take the perfumery industry and kind of put it with the medical industry. And so if you could clear that for me a little bit, just for people, around the healing power of these oils, that they're not just nice to smell.
Not at all. Not at all. That's why one obviously needs to exercise caution when you use them.
Yes.
One of our prime statements that we make.
Yeah.
Over and over again, for the sake of the public, but specifically, is do not take essential oils internally. Do not do that. Because they can damage epithelial tissues very, very quickly in the wrong hands. But having said that, your allusion to the pharmaceutical industry is what I talk about when I deliver a lecture to students, which involves the history of aromatherapy and what are essential oils specifically. And I've matured a lot over the years in terms of what I say. And if you take Chinese healing, for example, using a completely natural route, and you take Western medicine, there's a compatibility between the two, in fact.
I think so.
Yes. There's a place for both.
Yes.
What a lot of us have a problem with is that modern pharmaceuticals seem to be more and more dominant.
Yes.
And there are other methods, there are other ways.
Yes.
One of the things that I take umbrage to is the idea that all natural products are called alternative.
They were original. I call them the original.
How can they be the alternative?
They are the original.
The pharmaceutical industry is probably 150 years old. And they have the gall to tell us ours is the alternative.
Alternative? Yes. Good ever.
Anyway,
whatever.
So I've said that. So that's your, call it the medical side if you like. What you have with essential oils is a using the word side is a far softer. It's going to take longer. But it's a methodology that most of the time has no side effects, and that's the big thing. Is the idea that if you take an extract from a very potent plant extract and put it in tablet form, it generally has some kind of side effect. Whereas if you
is it because of what they mix it with, or
no, it's because they've extracted a single component. The story of aspirin is fascinating.
Oh, I know the story of aspirin.
Yes. So we talk about the story of aspirin, which is acetyl salicylic acid
Yes.
taken from the bark of the willow tree.
Yeah.
But if you chew the bark of the willow, you don't just get acetylsalicylic acid.
Right.
You get a blend of things in the bark that actually protect the stomach. Whereas if you put acetylsalicylic acid into a tablet and swallow it a number of times, it eventually burns a hole in your stomach.
Yes, that makes sense.
So that's why they coat the tablets enterically, so that it goes through the system and then into the intestine, for example. But I'm just saying that that's one of the classic success stories of when you isolate. So it's the principle of isolation that drives the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
Whereas what we have is God-given.
Yeah, it's natural.
And it's either a simple essential oil, which can contain around 20 to 25 different aromatic chemicals,
Yeah.
ending at the end of the scale in rose, which currently we're looking at around 450 aromatic chemicals.
Wow.
Those are the ones that have been discovered in rose.
Yes.
And they're still discovering chemicals in tea tree and all sorts of other essential oils.
My favorite oil, tea tree.
Yeah, tea tree's
Medicine.
Unbelievable story.
Yes.
You know, it's a wonderful. Tea tree is the other big product that's coming out of South Africa.
Really? Because I learned that you buy, but this is also again 20 years ago, Australian tea tree or nothing else.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But they've pretty much
because of where it grows in the swamps.
Well, not really. Like I think the Australians may very well have been very sensible in being fearful that the eggs were all in one basket in Western Australia.
Right.
And what happened if a fire went through?
Yes.
This is a volatile.
And it
plant.
happened.
Yeah.
Not so long ago.
So what they did was they came across to the same percentile in Africa, and they started growing the same tea tree. So they pretty much were responsible for bringing the correct type of Melaleuca alternifolia to put in the ground here.
Yeah.
And we've discovered that it's so good here.
Yes.
That in fact during 2019 we produced in liquid tons more tea tree in Southern Africa than Australia.
Whatever, really?
So again, here we go to the fact that as a South African company, a family-owned South African company, that's one of the big farming communities that we are supporting at the moment in South Africa. We've become
because tea tree's in everything. I like it.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And it's a brilliant product. Its purity is second to none.
Oh really?
I repeat, second to none.
In case you're wondering.
In case you're wondering, yeah. I've no doubt that the purity of our oils is on a par, if not better, than any other supplier in the world.
Fabulous. Because I like the story of tea tree. I like that it was. I like when we can go. The old Aborigines used it, and now we're taking that ancient wisdom. Because there's something pure about that ancient wisdom. It's almost, I want you to, like, I like the way the Chinese medicine men in the villages used to, it was his job to keep you healthy, not to make you better.
Yes, sir.
So that's where I think essential oils come in. It's about, like this whole COVID thing, if you were all cleaning your house with tea tree or citronella or that kind of thing, you were okay. You were sanitizing anyway.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
No.
Well, look at the thieves' oil, the blend that the grave robbers used.
Yes.
They were using the oils to protect themselves from
and
the
they
disease.
were protected.
This was thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Amazing.
So for me, that is just a testament to what is normal and what is natural and what is right. And then you also don't have those chemicals. So for me, part of what I started was now the householders thing, and cleaning and that kind of thing, and trying to find natural things, because my first workshop was a free workshop on how to clean bottles and sterilize them so that you can reuse them, jars and bottles and things like that. So part of, for me, was that we, everybody's recycling and this and that. So my first video is all about recycling your jars and your shampoo bottles to put your own shampoo in and that kind of thing. And I realized one thing. I realized I don't know enough about, say, what's one of the castle soap. Why is it good why is it not bad for the environment? Because that's something I want to sell. Well, not sell. That's something I want to instill in you. You don't have to. You can start by not throwing away your shampoo bottles and using the right stuff. That if it gets into the groundwater, it's not poisonous and things like that. Because I don't think people know. And then when I started really seriously using castle soap, didn't really like it because it doesn't foam as much.
Yeah, it doesn't foam, does it?
I'm like, okay, this looks like the water I normally let out of the zinc.
Grey water.
Yeah.
And then I realized, but it actually does clean really well. It
Yeah.
actually does clean really well. And into that I'm putting stuff. So I think all these natural sites have these products on them, which is fine and great. But they don't. I'm like, it's not going to look great, but it really works well. I promise. You know. So, and there's not a lot of. Why is there? Use Castle soap. It's good, and then you have to find something very obscure somewhere to find out what is in it. Is it because people are worried about you stealing their product?
No, there are definitely formulas which are kept close to people's chests.
Right.
There's a certain amount of disclosure that's required.
Okay.
But there are definitely secrets, particularly to soap making. And
I
that's
know.
one, not
I'm
fizz
trying.
balls or lip ice or what that kind of thing, lip balms or
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But certainly soap making, there's a lot of mystery in it.
Because like there's one ingredient, lye,
Yes.
and
The caustic soda, the sodium hydroxide.
yeah. So people go, but that doesn't look very natural because when you put it,
Yeah.
when you add it to something, it's like this. So it makes people nervous. And in my opinion, and you can, as a final thing, say chemicals are not necessary because everything's made up of chemicals. Your good essential oil that comes from your plant is actually a compound, as you say, of many different chemicals.
A group of aromatic
An arrangement
chemicals.
of
Yes.
atoms in specific
Yes.
shapes, yeah.
So something like lye is not necessarily unnatural. It just, when added to this, does this, and that's why you get foaming and things like that.
This is how
Am I
soap
right?
works. Someone was explaining it to me recently. It's the difference. It's the angle of the bonds specifically
Yeah.
on either whether it's the coconut oil that you're using and the
Yeah.
olive oil
Yeah.
versus the caustic soda, which is the sodium hydroxide, and it's actually the combination of those two working together to grab hold of the oil on the skin. Where you'd think, isn't a soap going to be an oily thing? It's full of oil,
Yeah.
but it's not.
It's almost like swapping the oil. That
Yeah.
shouldn't be there for that which is more
It
emollient.
literally
and
grabs
soft.
hold of it and takes it off. Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think we mustn't be scared of the chemistry of it, because I think that's actually because we are a big chemistry factory ourselves,
100%.
you know. And I like working at our school because I work with the chemistry students, and we do aromatic workshop, aromatic experiments and things like that at the school. I think we need to do this again next week. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we can.
We'll
do that
make a
soon.
plan,
There's so much to talk
because
about.
there's so much to talk about.
Well, there is. I was looking at you and just thinking that a comment I'd like to leave, and that is listening to what you're doing and what you have been doing ties in so nicely with what we're about.
I know.
It involves one word: empowerment.
Oh yes, amen. I love that.
Empowerment.
Yes.
In other words, giving people the chance. And charging very high prices for some oils takes that chance away from certain people.
Yeah.
And if you're genuinely in your heart, if you're about empowering people, and COVID has done that.
I think
it's
so.
made people look around.
Done me a world of good.
It's made them cut corners or cut their cloth anyway, according to the reduced needs that came along for some people.
Yeah.
And they've said, okay, let me make my own hand creams and shampoos. And let me put nice things in them. And so that's what you're doing, and I think that's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I like that. It's Roy, somebody I respect a lot, and that's like an endorsement for me. So I really appreciate that.
Indeed.
Thank you, Roy. And I think it's very important to understand who your supplier is, because I know that the supplier, like Roy, does his homework. So I have Roy and Matthew as my supplier, and you have me. So I hope you enjoyed this, because I really enjoyed that. This is quite empowering to everybody, and I hope that we can get together again. I think Matthew and Roy say, because I think there's a lot more to talk about. So just go and like us and enjoy us, and hope that you feel empowered from this. Awesome. I always do this, and he never takes this away. Then so at the end of all my things, I'm like, so not ladylike. I know he is. Okay, are we done?